Welcome back to the Boomer Bust podcast. It's a big night for us. We're in the G4 Claims studio, new surroundings, our new home. Huge thank you to them for having us and for sponsoring us on the pod. As normal, I'm joined by the co-host, the brains behind the operation, the founding father, Kieran. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you, and pleasure to be the brains. I'm not sure how big my brains are, so I don't know how far the pod will go, so we'll get on to that, I'm sure, but an absolute pleasure to be here, and for G4 podcast studio that we have we're way beyond where we wanted to be at the moment, and you can tell by the guys that are watching online how good this place actually is.
Absolutely. I mean, we'd no idea kind of starting this that we'd have the kind of support a place like this so soon, and it's great. They've been brilliant with us and helping us out and making it a lot more professional than just us numpties.
Yeah, I'm trying to hash it out on my MacBook when it doesn't work half of the time, and we've done all right, so we're getting there. So all we need now is just for people to start subscribing, keep the numbers good, keep the listeners good. We're trying our best to do what we can and help folk out, and we're not exactly experts, but people seem to be enjoying it, going by the feedback.
Exactly. And two fine guests for us. First of all, we've got a Spanish correspondent, Roberto. How are you?
Good, very good, Shag. It's good to be here. It's unbelievable setup, and I can't believe that. What's this, episode 10?
9.
Yeah.
That
These are here in a position like this in this kind of place, so it's brilliant. Happy to be here.
Yep.
And then we've also got our NFL fountain of knowledge, Martin. How are you?
Fantastic, mate. Just to echo what Bobby said, this place is brilliant. You guys have done a great job as well. And as I said just before we came on, it is far better than just me sitting in my spare room.
We don't want to know any stories about you in your spare room.
You beat me to it.
There's plenty, guys, there's plenty.
So, I mean, first of all, before we kind of kicked off, as sort of a fresh start for us in here, Kieran, you want to talk us through the kind of aims of starting this pod, why it was you actually, I mean, it was you that kind of came with the idea and the sort of passion behind it. What was the kind of thinking behind it? What's the objectives of this pod for anybody kind of first listening?
The aims and the goals of the pod really were just to grow as big as we can and enjoy it. And let's be brutally honest here, if we said it for the start, if 10 people listen or 10,000 people listen, it doesn't really make a difference. We're doing this as a wee bit of fun, and just let's see where it grows to. Do you know what I mean? There's the sky's the limit. In other words, we might not be the best podcast out there, but if we're consistent and people are listening and we can keep the momentum going, I mean, we've already said how good it is to be here, and we're probably ahead of where we want to be just now. It's fantastic. So like I've already said, like and subscribe, because it makes a difference with people coming back and listening and enjoying what we do. And yeah, let's see, can we get to the Super Bowl?
Well, that's what I was going to say. You love a free ticket and a scrounge, so that is the overall aim though, isn't it? But being honest, we said our aim at the start that one day we'll go to the Super Bowl, so eventually we'll build up enough contacts through this game that somebody will offer us a ticket. Is that correct?
I think you know better than anyone. If anyone's going to get us there for, I don't know about free, but I'll get us there, it's myself. But no, listen, we spoke about Dan Campbell, right? And we talk about his intensity and the grit, and this is what we're going to say. Doesn't matter if you've got one ass cheek or three toes, I'll beat your ass. We'll beat the Super Bowl. That's my rally cry.
Exactly, that's passion for you. So anyway, kind of moving on, speaking of sort of passion, brawl, Donald, sorry. So it got us thinking, what's your favourite brawls that you've seen in the NFL? Start with you, Martin.
So I looked this up just this afternoon, because none really sprang to mind, so I had to refresh myself. So I'm on YouTube searching NFL's best fights. There's some amount of crackers on there, by the way, they're brilliant. My favourite one I seen was Steve Smith Sr. for the Panthers at the time against Malcolm Jenkins at the Saints. So Smith scores a walk-in touchdown, celebrates. As he's starting to celebrate, Jenkins comes in and nails him with an absolute belter of a tackle. Smith goes down like a sack of totties, jumps back up, finishes celebrating, then walks over to Malcolm Jenkins and leathers him. Everybody else piles in, and it's just an absolute nonsense for there. Fantastic viewing.
I think we'll put the link for that in the description, so if you could send us that, Martin. I'm quite intrigued on your description to see that.
I would have to. Roberto, anything that comes to mind for you, or any experiences?
I remember last year, you'll probably remember it, Javon Wims, for the Bears against the Saints. remember there was like an off the ball kind of scuffle between the two of them.
Yeah.
And he runs up and he like punches him, and then he like jumps back as if the guy's going to like fight him. The guy's just staring at him, and then he punches him again, and then everyone just starts jumping in. But it's just the way that he's just standing there just staring at him. The guy's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, why is he just hit me?
My other one I looked up was Myles Garrett on Rudolph, where I'm going to say it, he ripped the helmet off him and then hit him with it. So read into that what you want. Kieran, you were known as the sort of Kindurrick crusher in your days. Any sort of scrap you were involved in your sporting days?
Excuse me, none that'll end up with me in a legal battle, but I'm thinking about my own experience here. I actually had the Golden Tate and Jalen Ramsey one there with the two. They had an off-field thing going on where Ramsey actually left Tate's sister while she was pregnant with her second child to go with another woman, spilled it onto the park, he spiked him into the ground, and then all hell's ensued during the game, after the game, and it was crazy. That was a game between the Rams and the Giants. If anybody's looking to look it up, but no, my own experience, I remember playing in a game a bit on needle on the park going on between our striker and the centre back. We've come off the pitch, and where the pitch is, you've kind of got to pass your opponent to get to the dressing rooms while they're locked after games, obviously for security reasons. So this is carried on, and we're standing waiting to get into the changing room. They've walked past, the two of them start arguing again. One of them slaps the other, and I mean the corridor's no more than 2 metres wide, and all hell breaks loose again. Everybody's at it, pulling bodies apart and stuff, and that's what sport's all about.
100%. You know, we say this, and I don't know if any of you are into hockey. I've only watched a few games, never been greatly into it, but the scraps you see in that, and it's just part of the game. What they just get on with it, like, the fans are disappointed if it doesn't happen in a game.
But see with NFL, I don't understand why they hit each other with helmets on.
I know.
Like they slap each other and punch each other on the side of the head like it's going to do something, but it's no.
These aren't the smartest characters, Bobby. Come on.
Aye.
The most advanced part of head protection in the world, and you're punching a guy expecting it to hurt.
I'm actually surprised there's not more fights. So see the way they kind of go at each other. I know there's kind of rules put in place now to try and limit that. I don't want to be real. I like it. I like that as part of the game, of showmanship of it. But you're surprised people don't go for each other a lot more, aren't you?
100%.
Yeah, I think everyone's in agreement that the taunting rule now is just like, come on, let it go. It's part of the game. And I don't know if many of you guys have seen the 3rd episode of Hard Knocks this week. I watched it last night, and there's a lot of sort of, it's great that it gives you that behind the scenes. Not to spoil it too much for folk, but they have, you know, one of these joint training days with the Indianapolis Colts, and the two of them are going at it. I think it was actually Jamal Williams, at running back, and they're I can't even remember who it was on their side of the Colts, but the two of them are properly going at it, not holding back. It's getting very personal, and it is. I was sitting there, I was like, the blood was rushing, I was enjoying it, and it's that type of thing that really gets you going. I was absolutely loving it. But watch it and you'll see what I mean. It's episode 3 of Hard Knocks, absolutely fantastic viewing.
I like it when it happens in professional. See when you see it especially happening, like you're talking about in training, when you see it in between teammates, and it's just a will to win. I mean, I watched the Arsenal documentary, and a couple of them are going at it, and if you were a coach, whatever sport you were, you'd like to see that, and you'd like to see folk in that intense, and you know, you like it as a classic. When you come off the field, you just write it off. It's just part of the game. It's part of the game. But anyway, moving on. Tom Brady. It's a saga that's kind of rumbled on the last couple of weeks. He was late, excused absence. They put it down to personal reasons from the start of sort of pre-season, missed a lot of the pre-season camp. Now it's kind of rumbled on. There was all sorts of crazy rumours. One we spoke about last week was about the Masked Singer. It was on that. This week he's said the quote. He's asked about it again, and he said, "I'm 45. There's a lot of shit going on." What do you guys think of that, Kieran? I'll start with you. You kind of spoke about it a little bit last week. How do you think about it kind of rumbling on? Do you think
it's one of the ones, like, I know we laughed and we joked about the Masked Singer stuff, but I think that debunks that rumour that if it is a personal thing, he's addressing it in kind of a way that he's been a wee bit cryptic. So it's not going to be the Masked Singer. Like, we can put that to one side. If he's saying I'm 45 and I've got shit going on, there's definitely something going on in his personal life that he doesn't really want to talk about at the moment. I don't know if he's trying to patch things up or trying to make things happen, or who knows. We're speculating here. We could be talking about it's for health reasons, who knows. One thing I did take, I think he's had a wee shot of the old Botox.
100%.
He's looking a wee bit glowing.
100%. Martin, you're one of his biggest critics, is fair to say. What is your kind of thoughts on the full saga?
I mean, he's no my feelings on Tom Brady. I don't like him. I don't like him as a person. I think he's overrated as a quarterback. I'm not going to get too much bogged into that, but I was hearing the retirement rumours coming back out, and I was praying it was true. I'm just looking forward to an NFL season without Tom Brady. Like, I know it's what a lot of people don't want to hear, but I cannot wait. Personally, I think he's just been in Gronk's house trying to get him to unretire again, but I don't think he's onto a winner there.
I mean, Roberto, what do you think? Do you think it's something they can sort of put to bed? For me, I mean, we spoke about last week. I think guys at his level probably deserve the respect and the privacy, and you think he'll get it done in the season. What's your kind of thoughts?
I mean, like you said in that interview, he said he's 45 now. Is he kind of over? Well, he's definitely over the hill, if you know what I mean. But I mean, he's one of the most elite sportsmen that we've ever been involved with, up there with Messi, Ronaldo, Tiger Woods in the NFL world. But did he stay on too long? Should he have retired after the Super Bowl and kind of left on a high? And is this kind of saga, is this going to be him kind of bowing out in a low, if you know what I mean? Like, I would love him to stay around. I'm the opposite of Martin. I think he's brilliant. I love watching him. He's exciting. Okay, he's old, but I mean, when does he stop?
I think it's like anything for me. It's in any workplace or in any profession. If you've been around, if you've been there and done it, you've earned your stripes. You get a bit more leeway from the coach and from the fans and from all your teammates to say, you know what, give him the respect. If he wasn't committed to it, then he wouldn't be there. You know, so for me, I think it's a whole load of sort of prying. You can understand the media. There's always going to be a media circus around them. But for me, some of the things are a bit disrespectful said about it, in my opinion, particularly for Martin in the middle there.
Put some respect in that guy's name, man.
I've been consistent with this for years, but I've always hated him. It's not a recent thing.
I mean, and today he was named in the top 100. He was named as the number one. Let's get your thoughts on that. I see Martin shaking his head there, so we'll go straight to Martin.
Nonsense. He's not even the best player in the Buccaneers. Mike Evans, you'd rather have Mike Evans in your draft than Tom Brady. I'm not having it. He's not the best player in the league. Far from it.
Kieran, you going to make any defence of that?
I'm a massive fan of Brady, but I'm going to have to say that I don't think he's number one.
Yep.
I think he's been given it considering that Aaron Rodgers got MVP last year when Brady's figures were miles ahead of what Rodgers were. I think it's a wee bit of that. It's a wee bit of, I think it was one of you guys said it in our chat earlier about he's it could be his swan song, it could be his last year. They want him going out on a high. That this 45-year-old guy that's been our poster boy for the past how many years, it's time to say goodbye sort of thing, but you're still on top of your game. I think there's a wee bit of that in there, but he'll always be the GOAT for me. Sorry, Martin.
Tony Romo. That's all I'm going to say. When you're talking about the GOAT, Tony Romo.
Again, these rankings, when they come out, they're put out for a reason, and they are put out to get us talking, aren't they? It's for reasons like that. And anything you put out with Tom Brady at the top, it gets people talking. Anyway, we'll move on to other kind of news. Gino Smith named as a quarterback for the Seahawks. Start with you, Roberto. Does this... We talked about it before, about the Seahawks, kind of their players losing their relevance in terms of fantasy. What do you think about that move?
So I personally don't know much about this quarterback. It's obviously going to be big shoes to fill. Russell Wilson, it's going to leave a massive hole in their offence.
Yep.
I generally don't know enough about the guy to comment on it. One thing I was thinking about the Seahawks though is, remember Gardner Minshew? Why does no team snap him up? He would have been perfect in Seattle. He could have easily slotted in there. He proved himself. He was a brilliant quarterback. He didn't want to be number two. Why is nobody taking a chance on him? And I thought, with the Seahawks vacancy, I thought Minshew could easily go in there and do absolute bits.
Yeah, Minshew mania amongst the 12 would have been unbelievable. But in terms of Geno Smith, he's been one of these guys, his name's stuck about for a while. We talk about off-field brawls. I think at the Jets, did he not get his jaw broken in training by one of his teammates, which knocked him off being the number one star? What an unfortunate way to drop out. In terms of his record across the NFL, he's 13 for 21, which isn't great. He threw 4 touchdowns across the 3 starts he filled in when Wilson was injured last season. And I just don't feel positive about even DK Metcalf, who it looks like he's going to have to put the team on his back this year. I rate him much higher than Drew Lock, but I don't think the ceiling's too high there when you consider the two players that we're talking about.
The Seahawks aren't going to be winning anything. They don't have a good enough team. Yeah, they've got weapons in Lockett and Metcalf, but that's about it. Just going back to sort of Kieran's stats. So when you look at their two options, you've got Gino Smith or Drew Lock. Gino Smith has been around the Seahawks camp now for 2 years. Like Kieran said, he filled in for Russ when he went down last season. So Drew Lock in Denver was a bust. There's no two ways about it. So comparing both of their stats from last season, you've got, including the game where Smith came in to cover for Wilson when he went down, in 4 games, he had 65 completions on 95 attempts for 702 yards and 5 touchdowns over 4 games. Then you've got Drew Lock, who had 67 completions from 111 attempts for 787 yards and 2 touchdowns. So you're thinking, apart from the touchdowns, there's not really much in it there. That was across 6 games. So in 2 less games, well, you're really actually talking, 3.5 games maybe? I'm not really sure what time it was Russ went down in that game, but that's far better production. And you can't use the argument that Locke didn't have the weapons. I mean, you've got Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, and at the time Noah Fant sitting there in Denver. It's a no-brainer for me. Geno Smith was the right.
Next up in the news, Commanders running back Brian Robinson shot. Now, he's in a stable condition. Kieran, what's your thoughts? Was your first thought, you ruthless? Was your first thought, am I going to draft Gibson from the...
Well, it's one of the ones. I know it's sad news and stuff, and we hope he makes a full recovery. From the news that's come out since it sounds that there's a chance he could play against this season, but football comes second and his health comes first in this sense. Funnily enough, from our chat, that we were coming up with a segment we're going to come on to later in the show, and his name popped up as my choice. It looked like he was going to be named the RB1 at the Commanders, which would have made him a very, very high and valuable fantasy choice for guys to take. I'm very high on taking a rookie running back every draft that I do, because you just don't know. There's one that comes out as a flyer every single year when it comes to injuries. Maybe not so much at the start of the season where we were going to see Robinson as the RB1 at the Commanders. So that looks like it's going to give Gibson the number 1 slot back in there. But it's going to be interesting because I'm not sure he's the out and out. JD McKissick's maybe a good pickup as well there, considering that he is a pass catching running back for full PPR leagues. Then he is always a good pickup to sort of your flex options, your RB3 options. That's where you're looking for him, over 10 points a week.
And listen, it's not a laughing matter. Obviously, it's good news that he is in a stable condition, but it does just show you how wild this sport can be. You know, that you could be thinking about your draft picks and somebody gets shot. I mean, that's just shows you everything could be thrown up in the air.
Puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
100%.
We're dealing in a fictional fantasy world where it's not really real, and we're sitting here complaining that players are getting shot.
I know. But moving on, speaking of fantasy football, we often look at what we try and do on the pod is give you a bit of an insight, not from experts, but from ourselves from playing the fantasy game. And in recent times, we've kind of covered a lot about who our sort of top picks are, but what we haven't really got to is the sort of mid-tier and what we're kind of thinking on sort of later on in the drafts. So what we've got to do is look at who would be your sort of bargains or your sleepers that you'd look at. Kieran, I'll start with you.
Yeah,
who's your first one?
Yeah, I'm going to back up what you say here a wee bit. Like, when you do listen to all the other pods, that the experts do tend to throw the same names at you quite a lot. Jonathan Taylor and Eckler have been named quite a lot last season. Not one of them named Cooper Kupp. So as we're not experts, but we're going to try and throw a few names in here that are going to put light bulbs in heads. So I'm going to kick us off. I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker III at the Seahawks. I know we spoke about Seahawks there and Geno Smith being the starter, DK Metcalf being the only relevant wide receiver. I think Walker's going to do well at running back for them. When you look at the options that they've got, you think, what has happened since he's been drafted there? You've had Carson retire, Rashard Penny's not staying fit. I know that Walker's had a slight procedure for a hernia that he had, but they're saying that he is going to be back, he'll be fine. In college, he had the most 15 plus yard carries and missed tackles in college football, the whole of college football last season. And a lot of the beat writers had him as the highest running back that should be drafted, as the first running back drafted, if you get what I mean with that. And it is. I'm high on him. He's going to get his fair share of snaps. Rashad Penny will still be there. He'll still be a very much part of that running offence at Seattle, but I fully expect Kenneth Walker to come ahead as running back one there, no doubt about it.
Martin, who's your first pick?
So my first pick is Brandon Ayuk, 49ers wide receiver. So currently his ADP is 91 overall, which is the 7th round. And you kind of think, Ayuk, 7th round, sounds about right, but you think about last year for Ayuk, he had a terrible start. So I've got some stats here again. You know I love my stats.
You do love a stat.
So from weeks 1 to 7, he totaled across the 7 games 9 receptions for 96 yards and 1 touchdown. I mean, it's not exactly a good return, is it? To be fair to him, I think that's 6 games. I think his bye week was week 6. So you're talking 6 games. That's really not a lot at all. He then kicked on from there the second half of the season, so week 8 to 18, 47 receptions, 730 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he really kicked on for there. I personally think that if he can carry on the end of last season's form into the beginning of this year, he'll be brilliant. He's been heralded as being the most consistent player in 49ers training camp as well. So all signs point towards Ayuk.
I like your shout there, but my only problem with him last year, aside from Deebo Samuel getting everything, was that I struggled to spell his name when I was searching for him. Am I right? I'm going to try this right. Is it Ayuik?
Yeah, did an extra eye.
God, 2 eyes. At least I tried.
Martin, some of the stats there, it's a wonder you've not won a championship yet. Roberto, who's your first pick?
So my first pick, I'm going to go with someone who had a really poor season for what he was hyped up to be. So Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to pick ADP at 141. Last year, like I said, he was terrible. I think he was averaging something like 12.7 points per game, which is a quarterback. You know that's far too low. You expect your quarterbacks to be between 18 to 22 points on average every game, so he was way below standard. I think there was obviously a lot of off the field drama happening with the Jags last year, which could have been a distraction with him. I don't think Urban Meyer was a good kind of character to have as their head coach and drive them forward, obviously, with his antics. So
role model.
A role
I think that's
model.
a bit of an understatement there,
I think as well, Trevor Lawrence, they've got Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram that they've recruited this year, so they're going to give him more opportunities to target. And I think, the boy's clearly got talent. He was phenomenal in his college years, and then when he came up to the NFL, he underperformed last year. But I think with a lot of negatives out, new coach as well, is it Doug Peterson that's the new coach for them? I think he's the right man to take them forward, and hopefully he'll have a good year. I'm confident. So
he can't be any worse. Put it
exactly,
that way.
exactly. And he's a backup quarterback. If you could get him in even round 8 or 9 as a backup quarterback, I think that would be quite a decent gamble.
I think he's got a very good chance of ranking as a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Yeah. Certainly the way he plays, he's got legs, he's got arms, he's 6'5". Mm-hmm. It's all there. It was all proven in college football. Like Trevor Lawrence was a name that hung about college football for 2 years, and everybody knew.
Even high school football when he was there.
Yeah, they knew he was going to be number 1 pick. I don't know if it was just because how he looked.
Yeah,
he didn't look up too much, did he?
I think he's a big, good-looking guy, but there's just something about him reminds me of that Ghostbusters painting.
Who's he looking at? Trevor Lawrence is a good-looking guy. Behave.
Man, you're forgetting the cameras are on here, man. And you're talking about Trevor Lawrence.
I'm jealous of his hair. That's all I'm going to say.
You and me both, my man.
He's rushing. Like last year, I think he was just under 400 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns. So for a season that was a poor season for the Jags and for Trevor Lawrence, I think this year he's going to really shine.
I like it. Shug, who are you thinking?
My first pick, I've went with Tony Pollard. I think he's about the 6th round. I might be wrong in that. For me, he's part of the Dallas Cowboys team. I think is going to do well. Said that in previous pods. Martin's nodding. He's happy with that shout. I think they're going to do well this season. I think everything points to him seeing a lot more playing time. I like Dak Prescott as well as quarterback. So I just fancy him to be pretty strong. He's a name that keeps popping out when I'm looking at the drafts. I'm looking at the rankings. Martin, you agreeing with me there? Your
Absolutely,
team?
absolutely. I'm targeting him myself. I think Kieran, you said it when you were talking about one of the running backs previously. I think it was AJ Dillon. So when a wide receiver, in this instance Amari Cooper, when he leaves and targets are vacated, bearing in mind Michael Gallup is still injured, thankfully not starting on the PUP list, which is great news, but there are going to be a massive number of targets there. Pollard is great at catching out of the backfield, and I wouldn't be surprised if you seen him lining up in the slot a wee bit more as well. I think he's going to be massive. You're going to see both him and Zeke having really big seasons if they're injury free.
I think there's certainly an argument, and I have heard it amongst some of the big journalists in America, that they would have Pollard ahead of Zeke. There is people that are really for that argument, but your top men in the back room at the Cowboys just won't have it. Like, no. Ezekiel Elliott is their boy. They're not budging on that, but a lot of people do feel that Pollard has a lot more ability when it comes to the running back position.
Well, I mean, Zeke's Dak's boy. That's it. They're best friends.
I suppose
franchise quarterback. You're not going to get rid of his best pal in the backfield,
absolutely.
Are you?
Kieran, who's your next pick? Who else you thinking?
My next pick, I'm going closer to home here, the New York Giants. Kadarius Toney. Come on, Martin, I'm waiting for a reaction here.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm good. So we're on the right page here. I'm liking this. So Kadarius Toney, I think the upside of him, he's currently been drafted ADP at 113, which I think gives you unbelievable value, considering his road to being the wide receiver one at the Giants is pretty much clear now. I was listening to a press conference yesterday with Brian Daboll, and they were asking him about Golladay. He had a very poor game against the Jets, and they were saying to him, is he going to get cut? I mean, this guy we brought onto our roster just over a year ago on a contract worth over $70 million, and the unthinkable is that there is a slight chance that Golladay could be cut. The wide receiver one role then becomes Kadarius Toney's, and in draft terms, if you're picking a guy up in the 9th, 10th round, the guy that's going to see the most targets at the New York Giants is the wide receiver one, and you're picking him up that late in rounds. I think it's an unbelievable pickup. When I look here as well, his breakout game against the Cowboys last year, he had 13 targets and scored 19.6 points in a PPR league. That's some good scoring. If that guy's getting targets, he's scoring you points, he could win your league.
I agree with that.
I mean, yeah, I completely agree with the value there. It's all upside with Toney. That is the one thing you will say. You've got such a high ceiling. He might not get to the heights of that, but he's not going to be a complete and utter bust. This isn't a personal thing for me. Yes, I'm a Cowboys fan, but the Giants are still not a good team. They're probably still the worst team in the NFC East, which is saying something of considering that division last few years. But my biggest gripe with Kadarius Toney is
how he
Danny
looks
Dimes.
again. Danny Dimes, yes, you don't feel that the quarterback can produce the targets which we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think he's accurate enough. I don't think he's consistent enough. He might turn it around. You never know. I've been very wrong about a lot of things in the past. Personally, I just don't see this joining that list.
Yeah, there is part of myself agrees with you there in terms of I talk about 13 targets. That doesn't necessarily mean he's always going to get 13 targets every game, but for anyone that's a beginner that's listening in or watching online, that what I'm looking for when I'm drafting or trying to pick up wide receivers from the waiver wire is that I'm looking for a guy that will get double figure targets every week. It's going to come good at some point if you're looking for guys to fill up your bench and fill up for injuries. I'm looking for double digit targets every week, and I think I'll get that in Kadarius Toney this year.
Martin, moving on, who's your next one?
So next I'm going to go with a rookie running back from the Buffalo Bills, James Cook. So his ADP currently is 108, which is the 9th round. Kieran said it earlier, I'm always really keen to have rookie running backs, especially if I'm only spending a 9th round pick on them. Personally, for myself, I can see me reaching a wee bit higher in some drafts. I'm in a few leagues, and if I think that other people are interested and I might not get them, I'm going to take him in the 7th or 8th. I've got no problem with that. Again, I think it's all upside for James Cook. He's coming out of college as a completely explosive talent. His pass catching is unbelievable, and when you've got Josh Allen there, you know, a future Hall of Famer, He's probably going to be the next best quarterback after the likes of Brady and Rodgers are retired. He is going to be the guy that goes on for years and years and years. And if you're any one of his targets, you're going to do well. I think Singletary and Moss, Singletary I think ended the season well for Buffalo last year, but they're very, very inconsistent. A young rookie coming in, I think the job's his. Again, I'm not going to disappoint you, Shug. I've got some of his projected stats for this season via Sleeper. So in a standard scoring league, you're looking at about 112 points on the season for Cook, and in a PPR, it's 147 points. That's not to be scoffed at in the 9th round.
Would you say he's got all the ingredients to be a top player?
Oh, God.
You put me on the spot here.
I mean, the Bills have got a lot though there. They've got a lot and too many cooks.
Stir in the pot.
Oh, can we call it quits on this now after that?
I can't believe you didn't call him the Cookie Monster to start us off.
I know.
I'll leave the names to you, mate.
These kind of jokes are food and drink to him.
Oh dear.
Roberto, who you got?
So for my second pick, I'm going to go with someone who has been brilliant for me the last 2 years. Not necessarily a sleeper, but I want to talk about him because I feel like everyone's writing him off because he's starting to get older. And Adam Thielen, the Vikings winger, obviously he's got a lot of competition this year. He's got Jefferson, who had an unbelievable year last year, and then they've got KJ Osborne, which I think will be his biggest competitor. But with Thielen, he's one of those players that Kirk Cousins trusts. Anywhere around the red zone, he will go to Thielen. And when you're getting targets in the red zone, you're getting touchdowns. When you're getting touchdowns, you're getting fantasy points. So his ADP is 72. I know that I'll be trying to get him because I know that he will be getting targeted in those just areas that are going to give me points. And I think with Jefferson being number one, it's going to free up Thielen in lots of space. He's not going to get double coverage. He's going to be available. And if Kirk Cousins trusts him, which he does, he's going to be getting the ball and he's going to be getting points. So I'm going to back Thielen for the third year running this year, and hopefully he'll do me a good turn again.
No, I'd agree. I'm feeling it.
That whole time I was joking around it.
Or for anyone who's interested in a fantasy football name, was it yours last year?
No, it was Jordan's.
Loved it.
Yeah.
For any Guardians of the Galaxy fans, he was called Hooked on a Thielen.
Yeah.
That was absolutely brilliant. But
Class.
now, on Thielen, I tend to disagree with you. I feel like he didn't do it last year. I think he's getting on a bit. It's a contract year, and I just don't think he's going to get kept on at the Vikings. He was a bit injury prone.
Yeah.
I think it was like hamstring injuries, fatigue injuries, what you tend to get with age. I think his day's been. I'm not sure if it represents as much value as where he's been picked. Don't get me wrong, I could be completely wrong here, but I just don't know. I think I took him as bust when we done the segment with Steve-O a couple of weeks ago, but who knows?
I'm going to back him.
It's the beauty of fantasy football.
Yep.
Give it 3 weeks and I'll be trying to trade him from you.
I'm going to take Kieran's side on that one. I think at 32, and I'm being on a bit of a steady decline since he's kind of monster days. I'm completely out on Thielen.
That's fair. I mean, Shug will back him.
Stick by him, won't we? So my last one, Alan Lazard, the Lizard. So the reason why I've went with him, I think he could be a top wide receiver. He could be their main man. Aaron Rodgers has a lot of trust on him, and I think there's also that void from Davante Adams, and I think he fits right in there. I fancy him to have a big season. What you guys think?
Wide receiver one for the Packers.
Yep.
One of the best quarterbacks all time thrown to you. I'm excited for Lazard.
Oh, I'm on the Lizard boat.
Yes.
I'm on the Lizard boat. Nah, like Martin's touched on there, and I've been saying it for weeks, and I've been banging that drum. You've got Aaron Rodgers throwing passes to you. The absence of Adams, he's going to shine.
Yep.
No Valdez-Scantling either. There's targets there to be had. Even his backups there at the Packers. Martin, you from it? Who's looking to be the WR2 at the Packers just now? It's mostly rookies, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you've got Romeo Dobbs, who's getting a lot of hype out of camp, but also Christian Watson are the sort of two guys that are being majorly floated for wide receiver too.
Yeah, and even at that, you look towards, if they're not getting targets, guys like Robert Tonyan. When we talked about tight ends last week, he had a good season last year. Robert Tonyan could also be a good pickup there, but nah, Lazard is the guy everyone's talking about this year. And I think it's one of these ones where somebody in our draft's going to reach because everybody's listening about him, and somebody's definitely going to reach there. He'll go
early, I reckon. He'll go the first 3 rounds. I think he'll be gone.
We've built the hype train.
Big time. He's going to flop, isn't he?
Yeah.
So, I mean, speaking on our draft, this Friday, we all meet up to do the draft ahead of the new season. It was a good event last year. We all kind of met up, had something to eat, got the draft done. There's a wee bit of controversy around it, but hopefully all straightforward this year. Just want to talk about our aims for this year, for the draft. What are you hoping to get out of it, Roberto? I'll start on you. What is your kind of, what is there guys you're desperate to get, or is there a certain thing you're desperate for to get out of the draft?
The last 2 years I've took Kelsey really early on, because I think having a high value tight end is going to bring you in points that other people don't have, because there's not that many brilliant tight ends in the league that are going to bring in the figures that he does. So I usually go for Kelsey really early on. This year I don't think I'm going to go for that strategy. I think I'm going to go heavy premium running back this year.
I think he's lying.
Just try to sway you. First pick, Kelsey. No, I do want a couple of really good running backs. Obviously, seen the success that Drew had last year with a couple of really strong running backs, brought in some scandalous points. Something that I've never really had. I've always had strong tight end, strong wide receivers, middle of the road quarterback, middle of the road running back. So I think this year I'm going to spice it up a bit and see if it can take me that extra part.
Martin, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm going to go the opposite way and not tell you my entire draft strategy. Thanks very much for that,
How do
Bobby.
you know if I'm telling the truth?
wait there a minute. Aren't you numero uno? Pick number
indeed.
one.
That's the first thing I've got written down here.
Come on, tell the audience, who are you picking first, Martin?
Going to keep that under this hat here.
There's no much
There's nobody else under there. Very good. I know, number one overall pick. I'm really not looking forward to that. I don't tend to like being at the turn, having to wait so long in between all your picks. It just gets annoying. The hope absolutely kills you. You've got a list of guys who you really like, waiting for them to come back to you, and they never do. Mm-hmm. And then you're looking at your next tier down. You get the back-to-back picks. It's quite easy to build a sufficient team at the turn. It's definitely not my favourite place to be drafting from. Other than that, I'm just going to try not to get hung up on draft strategy. Just try and take it as it comes, see how the build's going, and just try and build the best possible team.
And Kieran, I kind of got a eye full of your notes, and I seen a guy called Rex Burkhead quite high up. Is that correct?
No, what you seen there was the notes from the first episode of everything that you had said. But no, this is what it's all about. See, getting together with the guys. I know the first year we drafted online via the laptops because a lot of the guys didn't know each other at that point. So this is what it's about, that we get together and we do it, and it's a laugh. But I remember the first time I drafted and we were online, and I had not a clue, probably like a lot of people watching this, that our rookies to fantasy football, that once I had done it, I was like, wow, I can't wait till next year to do that again. But it's good to get together and do these things. But in terms of how I'm going to go about it this year, I'm pick 9, and I'm actually quite happy at pick 9. Kind of shadowing what Martin says, I kind of know who's going to come to me there, and I kind of know who I want and who I'm going to avoid, and it's on the turn. I'm trying to figure out who's going to be with me 6 picks later. We do it as a 12-team PPR league, and we'd run the draft as a snake. So when it comes back round to me, I kind of know who I want there, but with it being a 12-team draft, I think quarterbacks become a lot more relevant there. So I'd like to have a quarterback within my first 5 rounds. I'm not giving too much away there, but I think with it being that 12 team, to try and get one of the top 10 quarterbacks. I know there's 32 quarterbacks and 32 QB1s, and you'll get one somewhere. I think it's very, important to have a good solid running back. Last year I actually drafted Aaron Rodgers. He didn't get off to the greatest start. Personally, I don't feel he's a great fantasy quarterback. Stats probably don't back up me saying that, but I ended up with Lamar Jackson, and he was a superstar for me. He really held me out of games, especially the game against the Kansas City Chiefs, where I think it was quite a famous game in fantasy football last year, where I think it was Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown and Justin Tucker had scored something like 112 fantasy points between the 3 of them. And some folk were going to bed that night, especially us guys in the UK where it's running through the night, thinking, I'm 100 points behind here, I'm out of this.
Yep.
Coming back to waking up in the morning to find that they'd won their game, having these guys. So yeah, that's how I'm going about it. Where are you drafting, Shug? What are you thinking?
I'm 4th. Now, everybody knows I'm after the cheetah, Tyreek Hill. I like him in my team. That's nostalgia. That's my championship team. He was the main man. But in all honesty, you can't. I don't think you can really be too robot. Like, you can't put together a plan, just stick to it, because it just does depend on who everybody else is picking. So I think, like everybody, I go in early, get the running backs, get the wide receivers in the first couple of picks, and then, as you said, Kieran, quarterbacks and Roberto, as you said, tight ends are important. So it's important not to get too caught up in that list, and then you find you're missing out on. You know, I tend to just look at it when it comes to you. Quick scan through. You'll maybe have a list of players that you really like, but quick scan through, see what's available in the different sections, and take it as it comes. It's easy to have all these strategies, but it goes out the window when you're relying on somebody else's picks. So, and the other side of you said it, Kieran, just enjoying the social side. I think the first year as well, it was COVID, was still quite a big thing, and we couldn't really get together. It was good last year. It was a good social side, and as a game we all play, we're quite glued to our phones. I know, Kieran, we sometimes sit and watch the games together, but you're sitting on your phone checking out, so it is good to have a wee social event when everybody gets together. Definitely. So looking forward to it on that side. So my names is have a laugh, to be honest with you. I
think as well it's going to be very different this year, considering we've started this podcast, and me and you especially, I've given away every secret that we've got. So if one of us won it, then I think we deserve a real good applause. If one of the guys won it, then I think they owe us a pint.
I mean, you've gave away a lot of your strategy. I don't really know what I'm talking about, so anything could happen when I go in there.
I'm quite surprised you've not got a Tyreek Hill tattoo the amount of times you've mentioned him on this podcast. It's good. I love it. Absolutely love it. But nah, for me, if I'm in Martin's shoes, I'm taking Saquon Barkley first pick.
My shoes aren't fitting you, mate. I'm a size.
I mean, Saquon Barkley, moving on nice at him, is he somebody you think can be RB1? Do you think he can? I mean, it's that main thing we're saying every week. A lot of players stay healthy, prove the doubters wrong. What do you think, Martin?
No. I've got so much here to back it up when Kieran starts rhyming off all of this nonsense that he thinks Saquon Barkley can finish the RB1 on the season. I'm going to shoot down anything you say. I'm not having it.
Well, we've already said already, we're no experts, but I definitely think, like you say, if he stays fit, then there's a huge upside to say he can be RB1. The Giants sometimes haven't got much going for them, and you look back to the running backs that have been running back one in fantasy over the course of 2 seasons. There's not been a guy done it back to back in 15 years' time, right? There's at least 9 running backs to finish as RB1, and they were all under 25. I do know Barkley's 25 just now, so let's say 25 and under for that, right? Brian Daboll's come in. I'm expecting a good offensive scheme from the Giants this year, and Barkley's going to be the main man there. He's got to be. Like Martin spoke about earlier, Danny Dimes, maybe not the best quarterback. They're going to rely heavily on Barkley. If he stays fit, there's no reason he can't be running back one. Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2018, there's no reason he can't repeat that.
What about you, Roberto? You banking on him?
I would back Kieran here. Sorry, Martin. I do. I think he's got an undeniable amount of potential, and I think when he gets going, he will be explosive and he will bring in big points. Like you said, Giants are going to go heavy on the run game this year, and if he stays fit, he's going to bring in some big numbers. I mean, was it last year that he got the really bad injury? I was second pick, and I took him, and I think he had two games, and that was him for the season. So I've not seen his full potential yet, but I know it is there.
It's the injuries for me are obviously the biggest thing. I mean, you look at the injuries that he's had. 2018, that was his great rookie year. He done it with a hamstring injury. 2019 ankle. 2020 is the one you're talking about there, Roberto. He done his ACL and MCL. I've mentioned this to Kieran a few times. The offensive line is a massive problem for me. Nobody is going to be the running back one in fantasy when they're going behind the 18th ranked offensive line, and that's it improved. from last year as well.
Excuse my French here, Martin, but like we've both got experts, so what the fuck do they know?
You know what? Fair. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go out on a limb here, Kieran. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that both of the Cowboys running backs, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, will finish higher ranked than Saquon Barkley.
Right, let's base it on fantasy points. You think both of them will score more fantasy points
Yes.
than Saquon Barkley?
I do.
Right, right, so both of them, it has to be both
Has
of
to
them.
be both of them.
Individually. Right,
Yep.
okay, what we're putting on it?
Yep. Whatever you want.
Whatever you want. Let's
Within
think.
reason. Fair enough.
Within reason.
What about a top? So if
A top? What the fucking hell? Fuck
a
much
Giants,
money
a
drink.
Giants top
What's
or
that
a
in your
Cowboys top?
Right, I'll tell you what. Whoever loses has to square up the other one's bill at the next fantasy draft.
Deal.
Shaking on that. Shaking on
That's
that.
fair.
We're all in on that.
The bet's in place.
Yeah.
I am shiting myself.
But Martin, see if Barkley stays fit, do you not think that he is going to score big? I appreciate the offensive line. I know they've gone through big changes.
I think
but
he's going to be a very good asset. Like, he is going to do well. He's the best weapon the Giants have got. I just don't. It just doesn't all come into place enough for me. I just don't think it works out for him again. Personally, I kind of put a list into our group chat the other day. I think there's 15 running backs that could potentially finish above him, all things going well, and that list didn't include Tony Pollard. So
Interesting. But when you talk about the offensive line, I like that we've got Andrew Thomas in there, Evan Neal. It's going to come together for these guys. We've also got Wink Martindale, that's the new defensive coach. He's also going to help with this sort of stuff as well. I'm not sure in terms of online coaching, the guys in that, I'm not so deep into that, but I think that it's time for change at the Giants, and I think it's came at the right time, and I think Bartley's going to be the mainstay there. He's going to want that contract, and he is. He's the main man. I just feel like it's got to be his year. If he stays fit, it's got to be his year. I'm looking at him like a CMC type of fantasy player, pass catching, running back. He's a powerhouse. He's going to win something in the league if he stays fit. There's no doubt about that.
who are the Giants' backups running backs? Do we even know? Or is it just that they're so irrelevant and Barkley's going to be the guy?
I think that's the case.
they don't have any. It's just him.
It's the New York Giants, man.
I think the last player I remember being there was Wayne Gallman, and I don't even know if he's still there. Don't even remember what season that was.
I can't think off the top of my head. I've got too much in front of me here, but I'm not so sure. So we'll wait and see.
So last bit of business for tonight, we're going to talk about a documentary that's got everybody talking on Netflix. Manti Tao. What we saying, Roberto?
So I've not seen it, right? But I googled it.
Do your homework, eh?
No, I googled it, and then I was like, "What the hell's going on with this documentary?"
Yeah.
And his gran died, and then his girlfriend died in the same day, but his girlfriend wasn't real.
Only one of them actually died, without giving
didn't
too much away, but I think this is kind of why we've done it this week, because it's been out for a good 2 weeks now. Basically, the girl he was talking to, who was the catfish, or should we say girl, I'm not sure, trans now,
Okay.
who was originally a college football player or a high school player, was pretending to be someone else under the pretense of a picture of a girl who was quite clearly a model, and he got took by it hook, line and sinker. She texted him saying that was it a phone call from the brother? But the brother was obviously the college football player, pretending to be her brother to say, oh, she's died.
Okay.
The same day that his gran had died.
Okay.
So it was basically the catfish had got cold feet and thought, how can I get out of this? I'll pretend I've died.
Catch him when he's vulnerable.
And he was told that he was told that she might not be dead right before he went on stage, or that she wasn't dead right before he went on stage for Heisman. So therefore, he's had been left with a dilemma when he's asked about it on stage. Do I lie about it?
Yeah.
Or do I go into this elaborate story and everybody's like pretty much
Aye.
froze it? So I don't know about you, but I felt really sorry for him watching it. I know he was daft, right? But I did feel really stupid. I was sorry for him. Young guy, got caught up in it. Again, we're living in a different time where probably people are a little bit more savvy as a couple of years have went on, a little bit more savvy than internet-wise. He's just been young, and probably that's affected him mentally as well.
And did he make it? Did he make it as a pro after that? Or
Yeah, he played for the Chargers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure he only wrapped it last year.
I think he played for years, but the biggest thing that happened to him was people were starting to think, obviously, was he complicit in it? Like, was he part of this to try and get the publicity and stuff? Which is, well, I mean, you watch the documentary, there's absolutely no way he was part of it, but it absolutely killed his draft stock at the draft. He was a nailer to go early in the first round, and he fell into the second. And I tell you what, the Chargers, they got themselves an absolute bargain.
That would mean a draft this year. I'll catfish you, so. No, but I did feel sorry for him as well. But there was a lot of it didn't add up. I didn't get the bits that. So the girl that Lenny was supposed to be, like, when this picked up a lot of publicity, why wasn't that girl coming out and saying, this person's using my personal profile to say I'm someone which I'm not, here I am, sort of thing? That didn't really add up. But I feel like, and once again, if you have not seen it and you want to watch it, press the wee 30-second button on your podcast just now. I feel like they might have cut a lot of it out at the end, because it seemed to just end abruptly, and there was messages in it saying that we weren't aware at the time of recording that Lenny was going through a transition, which I felt quite weird as well, because I don't see how you can't by watching it. It was just...
What I found crazy is how for him that's watched it, he changed his voice to sound like, because they're saying he had phone calls and he played voice notes and it sounded like a woman that was on it. And even the FBI were saying there is next to no chance that you can make your voice sound like this, like much like a woman. And she went like that. She went, I needed to get into character. So she went behind a screen. It showed you behind the screen and just changing her voice. So once she is in a dark room, could think about it. And she said once she got in there and she got used to it, she could just go on a call, or he could just go on a call and change his change her voice straight away, and it sounded really convincing. So I mean, as I said, I thought it was a really good documentary as well. I thought that everybody was quite open in it as well, which was good. It's something that he could have had away from, and he didn't. Well, no, that's getting to do with the money he offered to be on a documentary like that.
Fair.
I don't know.
Or maybe the money he gave her. Who knows?
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way,
well,
be a cynic
true.
about it, Kieran.
But cards on the table, what have you got in the notes there, Shug? Has anyone in the room ever been catfished?
Matt, I'll start with you.
No comment.
No, but it's crazy. But once again, it got me thinking though, as crazy as that one might be, a lot of content going out on sort of documentaries, different things in the NFL, and it all just builds a wee bit of hype towards the season, whether it's just ridiculous stories like this, builds a wee bit of hype. We spoke about it last week about it being a global game now and everybody talking about it. That sort of publicity can only be good things for the NFL.
Yeah, but I work with guys that aren't into the NFL at all. In fact, I'm probably the other way that give me a good slagging for being this deep into it. And even they're coming into work and saying, you watched that Manti Tao documentary? Thinking, I was being honest with them, I have not got a clue who that is. I think this is a fantasy thing as well, where I know just about every single offensive player, but see when it comes to the defensive players, I'm like, I know I like the NFL, but a lot of it's based around fantasy football.
See what got me as well, just a last wee point, it's, I mean, I knew it from kind of being around college sports, but you do strip it back, you think about it, like, this is a thing that a guy who's a college student is getting caught up in. It's not an adult, it's not a full professional, you know, who's been in the game for years. It's a college student that's getting so much publicity and so many eyes on him. It's such a big story. It is tough. And see when you've seen, like, I don't know if you've seen it, they were doing the like as if they were selling the bobbleheads, his girlfriend, and it was just an empty box and stuff like that, and just ripping them. And I'm like, a young guy. And same with some of the questions he was getting asked. Nowadays, you would not get asked it like straight up. It was as if it was totally going after him, asking it, quizzing him about being gay and stuff like that. It was totally like, you look at it now and you think, how's that a way to treat a young guy?
When did this all come out? Is this only just came out? Oh no, it would have came out at the draft. It came out at the time. Okay.
Aye.
At the time, but there was a real feeling around the league from what I read that they fully expected that he was gay. Yeah, and it's quite a shame for him to be dubbed like that, because I know, am I right in saying that he's got a wife and 2 kids now as well, and having been portrayed like that when times are very different from now, it must have damaged his confidence a lot. But
And even we think about the world being a different place nowadays. If I'm sure there is NFL players that I don't know if any have come out, but it wouldn't be made as a big deal. You wouldn't be bluntly asked like that, or you getting such a big thing made out as if it's a something to be ashamed about or something. You know, it's
they called into question his leadership as
Aye,
well. Like,
exactly.
if he's gay and he's went through all of this, he can't be a leader on the field.
It's absolutely it's absolutely mental. I think that was only a few years ago, and everybody a lot of people kind of believed that way.
That's wild.
yeah, who was the boy at the Raiders that came out last season? He's not there anymore, if I'm right in saying.
I can't remember.
There was one of the Raiders defensive players. Could you Google for him quickly?
Aye,
Is that all
see if
right?
I can get it, yeah.
He had come out as being openly gay, and I listen to the Around the NFL podcast quite regularly. I know some of you guys do too. And their producer, she was lesbian, and what she was saying is, when I see, and that's it, Carol Nassib, when Carol Nassib came out as being openly gay, they were saying, when I now see someone with a Nassib jersey on, I can relate to him as being one of us, sort of thing. And there was a real sense of, not to tag a phrase here, pride amongst the gay community, that someone in the NFL, in such an alpha male sport, could come out as being gay. But when we're talking about Manti Tao back then, it was maybe a bit taboo to come out and be gay.
I know. I think
Even
it's
though
mental. Just the point you said, Martin, and being asked if you're about your leadership skills.
I know. How's it related to
Personal,
anything?
no, like
It's mental.
I don't mean in this in a nasty way, but I couldn't care less like what any players that I support a team, what they do in their spare time, really. If they,
Yeah.
Unless they're O.J. Simpson.
Oh.
aye, what thin limits?
What a Tony Eddie Potter.
But anyway, before they get ourselves into trouble, we'll end it there. But listen, guys, thanks a lot to the guests. Thanks a lot for the guys for
Thank
having
you for
on. It's
having
been
us.
brilliant.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very
Again,
much.
some superb knowledge. Kieran, thanks again.
It's been an honour being in here and getting this recorded. It is a real milestone episode. Hopefully one day we look back on this and we're kind of like, wow,
At the Super Bowl.
That's it. When Martin's buying my beers because I'm writing another draft on another player. But nah, it's been great. And like we said at the top of the show, thank you so much for G4 Claims
Absolutely.
for having a conversation and getting us in, and let's see how far this partnership can go. Like the upside, like we talk about players, we talk about this pod, the sky's the limit.
Absolutely, and the other side of it is just getting together rather than doing it over a computer screen.
Yeah.
You know, it's all good sometimes for schedules, but there's nothing that beats actually sitting down and talking.
Definitely, yep.
Yeah.
But anyway, thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next week.